I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero. You know, it's not the first time states have looked at the environment as a weapon. And we've talked about this before. Not conspiracy theory. You look back to the 1970s. You look back at the Pentagon's Project Popeye. They attempted to use cloud seeding to increase the strength of the monsoons, then bog down the Ho Chi Minh Trail. In 1996, a group of Air Force and Army officers working with the Air Force 2025 program produced a document titled Weather as a Force Multiplier, Owning the Weather in 2025. Soviet Union reputedly had similar projects underway, but although the idea of a geoengineering arms race may superficially parallel this line of thinking, it's actually a very different concept now. Unlike weather warfare, geoengineering would be subtle and long-term, more a strategic project than a tactical weapon. Moreover, unlike weather control, we know it can work, since we've been unintentionally changing the climate for decades with chemtrails and other such nonsense. The offensive use of geoengineering could take a variety of forms. Overproductive algae blooms can actually sterilize large stretches of ocean over time, effectively destroying fisheries and local ecosystems. Sulfur dioxide, that carries health risks if it cycles out of the atmosphere. One proposal that is out there is to pull cooler water from the deep oceans to the surface in an explicit attempt to shift the trajectories of hurricanes. Some actors might even deploy counter-geoengineering measures to slow or alter the effects of hurricanes, steering them in a direction as a weapon. The subtle long-term effects of geoengineering could make it appealing to the technocrats because the overt purpose of geoengineering would be to fight global warming, they say, and because complex climate systems would make it hard to definitively blame a given project for harmful outcomes elsewhere. Offensive uses would likely be hard to detect with certainty. Again, weapons with plausible deniability. And in the world where nuclear deterrence remains strong, but the value of conventional military force has come under question, states, countries, they're all going to look for alternatives, unexpected ways of boosting their strategic power relative to its competitors. And weather warfare looks pretty inviting right now. Despite the global impact of geoengineering, the differential climate patterns and the resilience of local technological, economic, and social infrastructures, this guarantees that some states will do better than others, much as Cold War nuclear strategists could urge, or basically could come together, argue over who's going to win a nuclear war, who's going to have more survivors, who's going to have less. I mean, they're thinking about that now, guys. They're counting who's going to die and who's not going to die. They have their lists, guys. You don't think they're sitting down and they're making their plans for when they're going to drop the nukes? You don't think they're standing by making their plans, wondering what's going to happen, how many are going to die when they decide to go after those chemical labs? You don't think for 1 minute they don't understand that if they create a drought in California, if they create a flood in the Midwest, if they create tornadoes everywhere, how it's going to displace people and starve them? They have these tools now. I mean, you heard the president. He said, well, we got Canada, we got Western Europe, and I guess now you got to see what's going to happen with Russia and Ukraine. Because, of course, they have the weapons, too. I mean, they could write out climate disruption. They could write out any manipulation, then say China. China has the weapons as well. Countries in the Middle East, like I said, India has Klymos, but, of course, we don't know what Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan. Just thinking the unthinkable is that they have weather control as well. So as you can tell, the offensive use of weather warfare to ensure food chain loss or disruption seems to be valuable. It is a very valuable tool for those who wish to disseminate more food crisis across the world, as President Biden slipped and said. And, of course, people are writing me saying he misspoke. I don't care. He said it. I mean, even if he didn't, I misspeak all the time. But if I catch myself, I go back and I correct myself. I mean, reading headlines talking about the end of the world, reading headlines about how people are starving, reading headlines about how corporate interests and the technocratic high priests out there are grabbing hold of our governments, grabbing them by the short hairs, and deciding that they want to control commerce. They want to control increase. They want to control the food crisis. They want to create and make food a weapon. Joe Biden just backs it up by saying it's going to happen. I said it was going to happen weeks before he said it was going to happen. I predicted a year before it was going to happen, and now it's happening. And I urge people to get their food at preparewithgroundzero.com. And why? Because we have it available, and it's cheaper than most food you get at the supermarket, and it's good. Tastes good. And I'm not overselling it when I say so either, because it is. It's really good stuff. We have here in the office our own food supplies in case we're stuck here.